Right, we've come to chapter 14 of Revelation. Let me put the timer on. Okay, so again, John sees a vision within a vision, and I looked and I saw the Lamb. So we have a question before us every day, don't we? What are we going to look to? Where are we going to look? Are we going to look around us at the problems? Are we going to look at the oppression and the difficulties, the dragon and the beast and the suffering of chapters 12 and 13? Or are we going to be looking up? We have an English expression, don't we, that somebody looks downcast? Yes, looking down, but we're not made like that. We're made to look up. Look up, child. Do you remember that song by Lauren Daigle? It's a great song. Just reminds you where to look. Look to the Lord and his strength, says the psalmist. Another psalmist, those who look to him are radiant. Depends where we're looking a lot of the time. How we start our day, how we live our lives is where we're looking. And people like George Muller and Hudson Taylor, they said every day the most important thing is to get your heart and your soul happy in God by looking to the Lord, looking to the Word. Don't start with the news. Don't start with Facebook. Start with the Word. Start with truth, which will set you free. Look up. Look up. So we'll be looking to Jesus today, the victorious Lamb of God. And I've got 4 points. Which are those? Okay, the Lamb and his followers we'll see in the first few verses. We're looking to the Lamb and the 144,000, his followers. Then the eternal gospel. Then we'll look at harvest time, because history is leading up to a set date. We're not believing like Eastern religions and everything going around in circles, but time has an end, just as it had a beginning. And then we'll look at the Song of Moses and of the Lamb, which is worth considering because it says we're going to be singing that forever. So we might as well get used to it now, eh? Looking unto Jesus, the Lamb. Okay? So let me start reading. Chapter 14, verses 1 to 5. Then I looked. So John sees things, doesn't he? And he hears things during this day when the Spirit is upon him. He was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and he heard things, but he also saw things. And he sees this. I looked, and there before me was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. And with him 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a sound from heaven like the roar of rushing waters and like a loud peal of thunder. So the Lamb, we know that. If you don't know who the Lamb is, the Lamb of God slain before the foundation of the world. This is the Lamb, Jesus. We've seen him, chapter 5 particularly. And there's the 144,000 again, Revelation 7 that Beth preached on. 12 times 12, 12 tribes, 12 apostles, a number that represents the redeemed people of God from every tribe and tongue and nation and people forever and ever. And they have a name on their foreheads. They don't have the mark of the beast of chapter 13. They don't belong to the godless world. They don't belong to Rome and all it stood for and all that came from that and every representation of godless power since then. But it says here, and it says in the very last chapter of Revelation, that our names will be written on his foreheads, on our foreheads. So we start with a place of security. We have a Lamb whose blood covers us. We have a place of security. Mount Zion, the impregnable rock of ages there. And we are owned and adopted. We, on Father's Day, have a Father. Behold what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that we should be called the children of God. And by the Holy Spirit, which I hope you know in power, you can cry out, Abba, Father, that you know God not just with your mind, but with your heart, your spirit, and your life. And then he hears a sound, a great noise. What's this noise? Like a great rushing waterfall. I don't know if you've ever stood by waterfalls, mighty waterfalls in our country at the moment. But somewhere like Victoria Falls or Niagara, a thunderous roar. What is this roar? And then thunder. Oh, it's June in England, that's what it is. And a loud peal of thunder. And the sound was the church making a joyful noise. The sound I heard was like that of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. It's Christians who can sing the songs of Zion, isn't it? It's we who sing from our hearts and spirits. Those songs that we used to sing at school, those great hymns, which I can vaguely remember, had no real meaning to me until I became a Christian. But now I sing every time, like today. We had literally a new song, and we have songs that are old but are new every day in our experience of them. Songs about the Lamb, songs of what he's done in our lives, singing the new song of redemption. Not just of the cross, but every day and every time he saved us and intervened in our lives. And it says here, our identity, and it gives a few points. How many points do you think there are here? Have a wild guess, given the background of Revelation. How many? 7. Well done. Just say 7. You're not far off. Okay, 7. What? Pardon? 4? No, 7. 7 off. Just say 7. I was counselling this youth once, and I was trying to give him careers guidance, and I saw him endless times, but he was also having counselling from a nurse about his weight, because he was seriously overweight. And every time I asked him a question, he would just say salad. Salad, yeah. I thought, well, it just reminded me, every time I get a question about Revelation, just say 7. 12 will do, but 7's a good number. It's a picture of completeness. 7 points. They are those who did not defile themselves with women, for they remain virgins. As I was thinking my way through this, I thought, I wouldn't need to go to Switzerland to commit like euthanasia. I could go and preach this at a women's conference, couldn't I? This is not a good sermon for that. It sounds like these are just men. That's awful, isn't it? If you do a Google search, as I sometimes do for pictures, it all comes up with 144,000. They're all men with harps. You think, I'm not preaching that. Never get out alive. They are those who did not defile themselves with women, for they remain virgins. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. He just sang about that in that new song. With my every breath, or words to that effect, I follow Jesus. Does it go like that? Something like that? I thought, yes, I'm going to talk about that. Following Jesus. That's what it is. Have you followed Jesus yet? Have you followed him through the waters of baptism yet? Have you followed him with your heart, your mind, your life? Have you followed the Lamb wherever he goes? Into the most inconvenient places sometimes for you. They were purchased from among mankind and offered as first fruits to God and the Lamb. No lie was found in their mouths, for they are blameless. Okay, so let me try and take that. The Message version has it quite clearly, interprets it very well. The Message is an interpretation, not a translation, but it's good here. The first point is this: they lived without compromise. They did not compromise. They did not commit spiritual adultery with other things. Going back to Revelation 2:22, the church at Thyatira has gone astray by following a false prophet, a false woman teacher called Jezebel. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. And it goes on, and Jesus says, I will cast her on a bed of suffering, and I will make those who commit adultery with her suffer intensely unless they repent of her ways. We're to live without compromise in our teaching, our ethics, our lives, our words, our minds, whatever, to live without compromise. And we're to live virgin fresh before God. We are married to Jesus. We are bound to him. You just sang a song that was about that as well. That our hope is bound with him, our lives, our death, everything. We're just with Jesus. 2 Corinthians 11:2 puts it, if you find Revelation difficult, just find a bit of the Bible that's a bit clearer. Paul says this to the Corinthians, who were a bit of a messy church. And he says this, I hope you will put up with a little of my foolishness, but you are already doing that. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you to one husband, to Christ, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. That's what we are, men. That's what we are, women. We're presented to be married to Jesus. pure virgins. The Greeks, Parthenos here. Do you remember? You've seen pictures of Athens, the Parthenon. The girls, the virgins who served in these Greek temples. The whole idea is we are that, men and women. We are married to Christ, and that's what marriage represents. Third point about a Christian is they follow the Lamb wherever he goes. We're just thinking we're trying to get this baptism service filled on July the 21st, that's it. And I was thinking Bear Grylls got baptised last year, didn't he? Did you know Bear Grylls, the adventurer? He got baptised publicly in the Jordan River. Well, you don't need to go to the Jordan River, okay? You don't need to follow Bear Grylls to the Jordan River. You can get baptised here in ordinary water. But he and we are encouraging you to do what Jesus did. He didn't need to be baptised, but he did it to identify with us in our sin. We follow the Lamb wherever he goes. And we are those who are bought from mankind. We are redeemed. A price has been paid for us. Blood. The life and death of the Son of God. And that means we're free. And we're first fruits of the harvest for God and the Lamb. And the church represents the fact that redemption is going to be completed. There's going to be a new heavens and a new earth. The whole creation stands on tiptoe, awaiting that great and glorious day when we rise from the dead and the whole cosmos changes. And not a false word is in the mouth of the Christian. Isaiah 53, verse 9, speaking of Jesus, the Messiah, there was no deceit in his mouth. We're people who speak truth from the Bible, whether it's painful, not very sort of culturally relevant or whatever. Not a false word in their mouths, and we become a perfect offering by grace. This is who we are, Ephesians, the section about husbands and wives. And it says this is what marriage is like, so that Christ might present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. So basically, what I'm saying to you this morning, the most important thing about you are these things. This is your identity. Not old or young, black, white, heterosexual, homosexual, going to vote for Labour, going to vote for the Conservatives, Lib Dems, grumpy, cheerful, light-hearted person, intelligent. Who are you thinking of when you're a little grumpy? I know, yeah. What I'm saying, this is your identity. Before everything else, you are a follower of Jesus and a son of God. And that includes the women as well, because you inherit as well. We are children of God. This is who we are. So that means we're secure. Looking at John's other writings, that's helpful. 1 John 5, his first letter, we know that anyone born of God does not continue to sin. The one who is born of God keeps them safe. His name is on your heart, on your mind, you're owned by him. To put it bluntly, you've been branded like they branded slaves with their marks. You've been branded by Jesus. You belong to him, and he belongs to you. You're safe, and the evil one cannot harm them. We know that we are children of God, and the whole world is under the control of the evil one, which in Revelation is put as the dragon and the beast and 666, the whole world that lies under the control of the enemy. I thought I got another point. Yeah. Let me just check. I thought I got a good point next. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Have to be this. It's a bit later, isn't it? 3, I used to preach with notes, and then we had these things called overhead power things that went up and down, and there was this. Anyway, this is the second point. 3 angels and the eternal gospel. Lots of angels in Revelation, if you hadn't noticed. Then I saw another angel flying in midair, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. An eternal gospel for everybody. He said in a loud voice, fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water. So this is an eternal gospel. This is a message that will never date. It's not old-fashioned. It's bang up to date. We're just the same as any other humans have ever been, and this gospel is an eternal gospel. It belongs for time and eternity, and it talks about the things of eternity. It belongs to the ages of the ages. It's not going to change. And it's for every nation, tribe, language, and people, every kind of culture, every kind of expression of the world, postmodern or still not modern, whatever. Another angel followed and said, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries." So Beth's going to take you through Babylon, I hope, in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. This is the first mention of it, and then we'll move on to other things, but we'll come back to Babylon, picturing Rome in all its power. Rome going to fall, and every empire and every worldview and whatever else that is against God. And the third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives its mark on their forehead or on their hand, they too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath." So he's saying humanity's, you got the mark of Jesus or the mark of the beast. With God, against God. And this is it. This is why it's important. There will be no rest, day or night, for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. This calls for patient endurance on the part of the people of God who keep his commands and remain faithful to Jesus. Rest. Rest is a real issue. That's why we're given the Sabbath rest on the seventh day. God rested, we rest. There's an eternal rest for the people of God. One of the things about being without God is that you're without hope and without rest. One way of talking about hell is it's a place where there is no rest. Augustine said, didn't he, "You have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they find their rest in you." I don't know what else you're looking for in life, but you won't find rest and contentment and full satisfaction until you find that in God, because we're made in the image of God to know God, to walk with God in the garden of his peace and remain faithful to Jesus. So hell is a place of no rest. What's heaven? We'll see. Then I heard a voice from heaven say, "Write this." Here we go, the second of the 7 blessings in Revelation. "Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes," says the Spirit, "they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them." What verse are you going to have on your gravestone? Is that the sort of thing you chat about when you're having lunch? Okay, what's your favourite gravestone text? Okay, this is a good one. Often if you go around cemeteries, you'll see this. "Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on." My personal favourite is this: "The last enemy to be destroyed is death." I quite like that on my grave. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. Death is our enemy. Aging is our enemy. We're not made for that. It's overcome. Okay? Some of us are nearer now than when we first believed, to put it bluntly. Yeah? You've got rest in God or no rest. And remember this. Everything you've done for Jesus by his grace is remembered. People don't know, and people don't remember all you've done for him and his people. People get it wrong. People don't know what goes on behind the scenes. People don't know what it costs you to be faithful and loyal to Jesus. But it's all there. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them. He knows everything that you've done for him. He knows. On that day of judgment, he'll tell you. Hopefully he'll say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Okay, so Revelation is about eternal things. We need to be serious about this. Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Because they were dying. They were martyrs that he's talking to. There are martyrs now, dying today for Christ somewhere in the world. Harvest time, which leads us into this, the day of eternity, the day of judgment. I looked, and there before me was a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like a son of man, with a crown of gold on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Remember Jesus? That's how he normally talked about himself, the Son of Man. This is the Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7. Then another angel came out of the temple and called in a loud voice to him who was sitting on the cloud, "Take your sickle and reap, because the time to reap has come, for the harvest of the earth is ripe." So the Father tells the angel to say to Jesus, right, it's time to reap. And still another angel called in a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, "Take your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes from the earth's vine, because its grapes are ripe." The angel swung his sickle on the earth, gathered its grapes, and threw them into the great winepress of God's wrath. They were trampled in the winepress outside the city, and blood flowed out of the press. So there's two harvests going on here. There's a harvest of the saints, and there's a harvest of the wicked. And there's this amazingly powerful picture of outside Jerusalem, outside the tabernacle. Outside was where they put all the rubbish. That's where they burnt what was remaining of the offerings. It was the place that you didn't want to go, outside the city. But there was a man who was crucified outside the city. There was a man who was crucified as if he was rubbish. And he went outside the city, and his blood flowed for us. And that's the point of the outside here. So going to Daniel 7, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. And he approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence." Remember that? Jesus talked about that quite a lot. And we've already seen in Revelation 1:13, "And among the lampstands was someone like a son of man." So Christ is here by his Spirit, the Son of Man. And outside, I want to just emphasize that. Hebrews 13:11 says this, "The high priest," talking about the Old Testament system of sacrifices, "the high priest carries the blood of animals into the most holy place as a sin offering, but the bodies are burned outside the camp. And so Jesus also suffered outside the city gate to make the people holy through his own blood. Let us then go to him outside the camp, bearing the disgrace he bore." That's the implication of all of that. The Son of Man is the one who died outside the city, outside the gates. We as Christians, we may have a hard time. I don't know what. You may have a hard time in your family, in your workplace, in your nation, whatever. Sometimes we have to go outside the camp with Jesus and suffer the scorn and the mockery. Sometimes as preachers we have to go outside because some people don't preach the gospel I've been preaching the last few minutes. Some people think you're going to be all right if you die. Everybody goes to heaven. I'm telling you, not everybody goes to heaven. Not everybody gets rest. There's a rest for the people of God. Blessed are they that die in the Lord. And I'm not going to be a false preacher and tell you otherwise. You need to go to Jesus, who suffered for us, shed his blood outside the people, outside the camp, outside the city. And that's whatever disgrace that causes us. And the last point is this. It's a new song. And this is the song we're going to sing forever and ever and ever. And I wouldn't take that too literally if that sounds dead boring. Because it does sometimes, doesn't it? Can you imagine some of the songs that are sung today? Not just today here, I don't mean that, but some of the crummy, rubbish Christian songs, and you have to sing that particular one forever. What do you think of that? No. A new song, new songs, new creation, new activity, new society. God doing new things forever and ever with us. The song of Moses and of the Lamb. Right, sorry, I'm just checking the time. And I saw, here we go again. I saw another vision within the vision. And I saw what looked like a sea of glass glowing with fire. And standing beside the sea, those who had been victorious over the beast and its image and over the number of its name. They held harps given them by God and sang the song of God's servant Moses and of the Lamb. So this is the sea of glass that we've seen before in Revelation 4. This is the throne room. This is the very presence of God. Williams, the Welsh hymn writer who wrote Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah, when he published his book of hymns, it was called Songs from the Sea of Glass. This is the place of worship. This is a place of rest. This is a place of unutterable joy. Singing the Old Testament song of victory. They sang, didn't they? They went through the Red Sea. Then the Egyptian chariots tried to follow them and the waters closed. And Miriam and the women took their tambourines and they danced a war song. They sang to the Lord, the victorious one, the song of God's servant Moses and of the Lamb. And this is it. Great and marvelous are your deeds, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways, King of the nations. Who will not fear you, Lord, and bring glory to your name? For you alone are holy, for all nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. Who will not fear you? Well, will you? I would be like an unfaithful preacher if I said, are you doing this? Do you fear God? Do you follow the Lamb? If not, why not? All nations are going to do this, willingly or unwillingly. Philippians 2 verse 9. Therefore God has exalted Jesus to the highest place and given him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow. That'll get you killed in certain places. That at the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue can acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Who will not fear you? That's what I want you to think about. Who will not fear you? Who will not fear you? Is it you? Will you follow? Will you follow the Lamb wherever he goes? Have you followed him? Jesus said that, didn't he? The disciples, fishermen, busy. Just said, follow me. Leave that way of life. Follow me. Just follow. Follow my teaching. Follow my example. Follow me. Will you accept him as Lord? Will you find rest for your soul in him? Will you gather or run away on the day of judgment? So that's it. Choose your destiny today. Amen.